Happy Paradise Tuesday to all. Pleasant good morning, Virgin Islands. And as Valentine's Day is approaching us, I'm wishing everybody a happy Valentine and go to the art fair. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to At the Table with Crucian Educator. And this glorious Tuesday, it's February 10th, 2026. So that means how many days we have now? We've had 31 days in January and 10 days now. So I'm counting down to the new year, and I'm feeling optimistic that things are going to get better. But today I have a guest in the studio, and so I'm going to go straight to the guest and let the guest introduce himself. And at the end of his presentation, I'm going to ask questions. At the last half an hour, give you the opportunity if you want to call in. The numbers are 340-773-0390 and 340-773-0490. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me on. Good morning. My name is Jed John Hope. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody is fine. So talk to me, Verdell. What do you want to talk about this morning with your audience?
Well, tell us what role you play in this community. And
Well, I'm a native son, born and raised in Frederickstead. I'm a business leader. I moved back here in 2018 and have been running my businesses ever since. I have a car business. I have a media company. Also have a consulting company and a few others. But I still stay pretty busy as an entrepreneur. But lately I've been kind of taking a stance on some of the issues, kind of, I guess you could add political and community activist to the list of many hats that I wear. And just giving back to the community that's given so much to me, and looking forward to just engaging in positive, productive discussions.
well, a media production company, interesting. Heard the governor mention about getting someone to a media production company to create a documentary and his legacy. Were you one of the contenders?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. That was not. That's not something we would have. We would have responded to.
But when you said me, I'm interested in that. Could you elaborate what you do?
Yeah.
Media production company.
So we Yellow Cedar Media. We are a Virgin Islands platform. Started by Virgin Islanders, created for Virgin Islanders to really take control of our narrative and tell our own story. And I like to tell people that a lot of other media outlets will tell you what happened. We dig a level deeper and tell you, why it happened. So we definitely have some deep op-eds. We have my favorite reporter, Mark Dworkin. We used to work for the St. Croix Avis for many years.
Mhm.
He's kind of the day-to-day cover guy and covers a lot of stories. The arts as well as the community, the press briefings and stuff like that. He puts his spin on it. Mark's phenomenal. But we one of the things I'm probably most proud of with Yellow Cedar Media was we held a block party this past summer. I don't know if you remember the guy Dutty Hot, but he was
Yes,
a friend of mine, and we probably once a year I would bring down comedians that I knew from the States.
Oh yeah.
And this
Okay.
this young man Jordan was one of our comedians. Funny guy. He always had a smile on his face. Always had a joke to tell. And he really shook me up when he got shot on the boardwalk
Yeah, that was
last summer.
heartbreaking.
And we thought the community needed some healing, and we organized a block party. We brought international artists, people from Jamaica, the States, all over the world came to the Virgin Islands to help celebrate his life, as well as all of the other gun victims. And we brought 5,000 people to Christiansted and really had a great great time throwing that Unity concert. So that's probably the biggest event the Yellow Cedar Media has thrown so far. We look
Wow,
forward to
okay.
doing it again this summer.
Sounds intriguing. And what role are you serving in our community? You could elaborate more on that. You mentioned, well, you already asked the question.
Yeah. So
And
I'm
so
a
I would
business
say,
leader.
what?
I also served as the former vice chair of the WAPA board for several years. And I sat on the boards of several nonprofits. So I'm pretty involved in the community.
Okay. And what ideas could you offer to enhance Virgin Islands pride, promote culture, and enrich history, and make the Virgin Islands of the United States a better place?
Well, what I'd say is pride is more than a slogan or a buzzword, right? Pride, I don't know if you guys know Deion Sanders, but
I know him well.
You know Deion,
Yes,
right?
Francis Thomas. Yes.
Deion Sanders, the cornerback for the
Oh,
for the
I think it's Deion Parsons.
Deion Parsons, yeah. Deion Sanders is probably the greatest cornerback of all time. He's
Okay.
NFL former football player, and then now he's a coach. But he always has this thing where he says, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. When
Okay.
you play good, they pay good.
I like that.
So
I like that.
as you unpack that, right?
Yeah.
You got first. It all starts with how you look and how you feel, right?
Uh-huh.
So you ain't inviting nobody to your house if your house dirty and your grass ain't
What's
cut,
that?
right?
Right.
The second thing is about competence, right? So if you play good and you feel good about what you do and you know that ain't nobody could do it better than you, you're very competent and confident, and you have a lot of pride in that. The third thing is pay. When you got money in your pocket, there's a lot of pride when you step out on Friday night, right?
That's true.
So
Money in your pocket helps.
we have
Wow.
to help Virgin Islanders achieve on every single one of those fronts. As far as self-pride, we got to take a better approach and more proactive approach to managing the look and feel of the territory. We have to make sure the Virgin Islanders have jobs and they're doing meaningful work. And then the last thing, kind of, in hand in hand with that is you got to make sure that people are making money. So that's what we can do to improve Virgin Islands pride and make sure that Virgin Islanders are proud. Is we need to take better care of our environs, right? You look around the place and the buildings ain't paint, and it's depressing, right?
It is.
One of the biggest things you could do to just improve the sense of pride in a community is cut the grass and paint the buildings, right? So
and you have to pay people to do it.
You have to pay people to do it. But these are simple things, but pride really starts with self, and we got to make sure that we help these Virgin Islanders achieve self-pride.
That's a good point. And I never thought about it that way. That's a excellent analogy.
Thanks. But like usually when you hear people talk about VI pride, it's usually the people that are awake, right? And they're living in communities.
I'm just waving a
flag. They're waving a
like
you're
not here experiencing all the downfalls and pitfalls. And
you know why they feel VI pride is because they don't have to deal with the day-to-day of living here, right? They're not driving through dilapidated towns. They're not driving through a town where they got raw sewage flowing into the ocean, right? It's hard to feel pride when you live in the day-to-day like that.
I got you. And what about the promotion of culture and enrichment of our history?
Well, we got to do a better job at that, but all of that comes with money. So we need to fix the economy, and if we fix the economy, then there's a whole slew of things that we can do to improve, educating the next generation, and starting with the schools. We can improve the way the kids kind of grow with this VI.
Well, it costs more to incarcerate than to educate.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the key, the prevention of what you call juvenile delinquency, is to ensure they are in a good school environment that would encourage their participation
Correct.
in school activities, to excel academically, and to attend, because you heard what the recent report on the absenteeism rate. Maybe the children don't like going to school because it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, and they don't feel good about getting up and going to a place and making them unhappy.
If it's a welcoming environment, and they feel safe, that's another part of going to school. I feel that the kids will go. But you as a former educator probably know better than I, what are the things that we can do to compel parents to bring the kids, as well as have the kids show up on a day-to-day basis.
Well, you need incentive, and I tell you, as a junior high school teacher, it worked for me. Bribery, and in a humorous sense. What I mean by that, it's an incentive.
Right.
When I would give quizzes, and I would put them in teams, I would give good quiz. So that means they got to work together.
Right.
They got to compete.
So you're building that teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork. And whichever team scored the highest, everybody got treated to McDonald's.
Right.
It was close by.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, incentives work. That's one. You have to get some kind of incentive for them to come to school. And I think right now, one of the biggest incentive we have, I think this was one of the best legislation in terms of education. And this, I believe, was sponsored by the Lieutenant Governor Traganza Roach, about the free tuition for students coming out of the educational system.
It's free tuition to UBI.
Yeah, to UBI.
But I thought we were talking about absenteeism and
what I'm saying is this. Well, that's part of it, because if you're absent, you're not learning.
Right.
The instructional takes place when the students are there. So you could be physically absent, you could also be mentally absent.
Okay.
You might be present physically, but if you're not going home, you're not taking the education seriously, and your parents are not imparting the value of education.
Well, I think there's some of that as well. But also what you said before, you don't like the environment you're going to school in. You might go to school and get licked down by a fan.
Yes.
Nobody wants.
That's a possibility.
Nobody wants to learn in that environment, right? And we're spending a lot of time talking now about brand new schools, but you got to realize that new turns to old very quickly. A new building isn't going to solve.
Maintained.
A new building isn't going to solve our education problem, right?
Right.
So it takes a holistic approach.
Yes, I agree. And but at least I am saying that is something that should be instilled from the very beginning, that listen, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Well, I think so. There's definitely some stuff that we can do there. We don't vet our academics. We give the keys to the city, continuously to musicians and, people that have contributed from an arts perspective. But what about the people that went to college and, did amazing things and, contributed to life here in the Virgin Islands? People like Adrienne Todman, right? Adrienne Todman is from St. Thomas. She went to St. Peter St. Paul, and she sat in the president's cabinet, President Biden. She was his Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. So when we were redoing all of the public housing communities after the storms, Irma and Maria, Adrienne Todman played an instrumental role in funneling money to the Virgin Islands to make sure that we had the money necessary to rebuild. And this lady was from St. Thomas, and we have not named a street after her. I was
going to ask about that. So nothing.
We have not named a street after her. We haven't done anything for this lady, and I think it's a travesty.
Well, that's part of the promotion of Virgin Islands.
No, but it's deeper than that.
Right,
it's a promotion of academics and academic excellence. That's something that we have to instill in kids. Like, watch it. If you take this path and you're successful in academia, there is a role here for you in the Virgin Islands, and we value education.
I hear you.
So we have to start living our values at some point. And if education is really important to us, then we have to start recognizing the people that have excelled in academics and contributed to this community.
Yeah, it seemed that we give more praises to those that excel in sports, and I'm not knocking that.
I'm not knocking it at all.
However, that's the reality. We quicker to name something after Timmy Duncan than Adrian
And Adrian
Todman, and both are important. You need to be physically healthy, but you can shine academically as well as athletically.
Correct.
And yes, I think we should put some more emphasis on educational achievements. And even it's interesting to me. I find I was trying to name all the schools and St. Croix, the public schools, and there are two. We had this discussion that don't have the name after a person. To my
St. John and Complex.
yeah, and those that have the name, it's a travesty, insult to their legacy that the building that bears their name, that building that bears any one of them, some of them are neglected, abandoned.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's this goes back to deeper structural issues, right? You can name something after somebody, but to your point, you got to maintain it. And maintenance, that's largely a function of money, but it's also a function of efficiency. If if you're stealing a bunch of money, you're never going to be able to to put as much money into maintenance as you need to. So we got to fix the issues with government efficiency, as well as generate some more money to make sure
right?
that we can maintain all of the stuff that we have. The federal government is talking about putting $20 billion into this place. That's going to take a lot of money annually to maintain. So what's the plan to maintain all of these buildings? We're not going to be able to maintain $20 billion in new equipment without talking about generating some more funds. That's like somebody getting a Lamborghini, and then the first time you need a brake job, you realize that you realize you need 25 grand for the brake job.
Right.
What you gonna do? All of a sudden, you're gonna have to park that car.
We live in a capitalistic society. It takes money. But I was saying, students attending, for example, the John H. Woodson School, do they know who was John H. Woodson? The buildings, it should be some way with use of digital technology that any structure that has a name on it, you should be able to acquire more information about the person.
Yeah, I mean that would be a fantastic project. I could see a little bulletin board with a QR code.
Yes.
Learn more about this. The namesake of this building.
Right.
And that's something that could be and should be implemented wide, right? From the hospitals to the roads that bear people's name. But that would be a great Virgin Islands history project to embark on.
Yeah, because I have this idea. I'm calling it the Shanti Project. I want every Shanti in the territory to be named after a native Virgin Islander. I believe that would promote Virgin Islands pride and culture and enrich our history, but it would just be more than putting a name.
Right.
That person would be the guardian of history, culture, and heritage.
I like it.
Because every Shanti should have the official symbols, like for the flag, the fabric, the dish, the flower, the bird, the music.
So when you guys started on this project?
Well, it is a community effort. I'm just putting it out there now.
Yeah, but
anybody could take the idea. Any senator, any aspirants, you could run with it. Okay, I don't have no copyright on it. It's not copyrighted yet. So you can run with it. As a matter of fact, I want people to add to it what ideas, because I believe the government is responsible for providing basic services, but we need to have the community involvement in maintaining the area, keeping the grass cut, beautifying it, keeping it litter free. Because I watched last month, Public Works, I believe, are the ones that sent out those guys who cut the grass.
Right.
They cut the grass, okay, along Midland Road.
Okay.
Pick up the litter. The next day, I saw litter.
Yeah, I mean, we got a
next
one
day.
that's that's a more layered issue as well. We've got to start enforcing it. We got to start finding people for littering.
Mhm.
Another thing too is we've got to increase the anti-litter and
Yes.
beautification portion of our education system. In Germany, they teach you it's your national duty to be a good steward of the environment in kindergarten.
Oh yeah. Well, we need to adapt that here. And from kindergarten,
From
okay.
kindergarten.
Well, hey, see, we putting out ideas.
Yeah.
Aspirants can run with these ideas. Okay.
So it's part of your national pride to take
Yes.
care of the environment, and that's right now in the Virgin Islands, like that's what we have. That's what we sell to the world. That's what makes us feel good about ourselves, is how beautiful this place is. So it makes me mad when when I'm going, I go for walks in Frederickstead on Sunday, and I'm walking along the waterfront, and just a heap of trash.
I know.
And I'm embarrassed by them. Like, who comes to the beach and maybe you had some food or you had something to drink and you just fling it through the window, right? Like, come on, man.
That's what I see happening. And I believe if you had people that felt like I am part of this. I'm part of this community. And like you said, I want my community to look good, like my house.
Right.
This is my home. I want my home to look good.
This is my self-pride.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't in good conscience invite somebody to come visit me and show off the Virgin Islands if the Virgin Islands is filled with trash.
Right. And this is my theory. Why some people litter is they have the attitude that this government is not paying them enough. I'm going to just throw this out because you got people that will pick it up. You have public up and waste. This is my theory. Waste management, and I am not being paid enough, so I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, and those people just gotta get fined. I mean, they gotta get educated and they gotta get fined.
Yeah, they have to get fined.
I live off a dirt road, right? And you gotta drive up a little bit to get to the house. And one day I was driving down the dirt road, and it's off the beaten path, but not far off the beaten path, right? But I say this to say, I was driving on the road one day and I looked down, and there's some undeveloped land right next to the road. And I looked down and I couldn't believe there was a mattress down there. So somebody went out and bought a new mattress, loaded the old mattress onto a truck, and then drove around looking for some place to throw the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I had to do? I had to pay somebody to go down and pull up the mattress, right? But think about that, right? Think about what that says about the mindset of that person.
I know.
Right? Like that type of stuff, like when we see people doing stuff like that, we have to call them out because that's not who we are.
And I heard recently there was a discussion about Waste Management Authority offering sales of standardized bins, trash or garbage bins. Cost us $75, the ones that have the wheels, and $70 for seniors. Well, there was a lot of pushback.
All right.
Because some people felt, well, the cost was prohibiting for some. I propose, you know what? You have to make contribution to the government, but senior citizens should have some entitlement, and some will not have the ability to go and pick up. They have to have a truck.
Yeah.
So I suggested waste management, and it takes money. Like you said, you have to generate money.
You have to generate money.
You first on the list, and they have run out the bins. On the list should be seniors, citizens and a discount rate of $50, which includes delivery to your residence. But it takes money to offer these kind of
it takes money. So I'd really have to go and see what it do the research and figure out what it costs to see. You know, I'm all for offering discounts to the seniors, but what I would say, and shout out to the waste management director Mike Weir. It's a good guy, and he knew in his role. But you know, the Virgin Islands is one of the few places in the world where trash pickup is free.
Yes, I know that.
So that it comes at a huge cost.
It's
and
a cost,
you go to New York, you know, the garbage men are some of the most well paid.
They call it sanitation workers.
Correct, sanitation workers. That wasn't the most PC of me, but the sanitation workers are some of the most highly paid workers in the city. And I think I forgot which mayor it was, but at some point he said, "Watch, if you want somebody to come pick up your trash, you are going to have to pay. Right? It's not for free." And like it's amazing to me that I was probably 40 years ago in New York, right? The Virgin Islands is still paying for it, right? Like we have to at some point be real that this is a hard job, and it's a job that, to be quite frank, not a people want to do, right? Would you want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go around the island picking up trash? Not a lot of people want to do it.
Well, people don't want to hear about.
You got to pay them well.
People don't want to hear about taxes and all of that. But anyway,
but that's the reality.
That is the reality. As I said, we live in a capitalistic society. But let me ask you this question.
Sure.
How would you describe the state of the territory, and what do you believe are the 5 most important issues that must be addressed by the Virgin Islands government?
All right. I'd say that the state of the territory is distressed and precarious. I think we are at a critical inflection point. We have been on a downward trajectory for quite some time. And I think that we need to get serious about solving the issues and turning things around. I think this administration, while they did some things well, I think they handled COVID well. I think it has been a net step backwards for the territory.
Okay.
And what I would say is that I think that we have our work cut out for us as we move forward. I think that first and foremost we have to fix the economy and the cost of living.
Okay, so economy. Cost of living, okay, that's one.
Yeah, cost of living and affordability has gone, just gone through the roof, right? So our people are struggling. It is getting harder to make ends meet. You see, we were talking about the minimum wage the other day, and I think, that's, we're never going to be able to raise the minimum wage fast enough to keep up with the cost of living. What we really need to do is lower the cost of living, and things like, being serious about solving the issues at WAPA will do a lot more than giving somebody an extra $1 an hour, right?
Right.
So I think we need to fix WAPA first and foremost. WAPA is strangling our economy. The second thing we need to really dive in on is healthcare. The healthcare system is in shambles, and we need to find a solution there to bring quality, affordable care to the Virgin Islands. I talk to people all the time. I was talking to a nurse the other day, and she was saying that they don't have routine things like bandages or IVs, and they're deciding who gets treatment based on what critical supplies that they have on hand. So that's got to be fixed.
Well, I want to relate to the economy. So I don't put economy, cost of living is one. WAPA two, health three.
Healthcare relates.
So name 2 more issues that must be addressed.
A lot of it relates to government efficiency and government priorities.
Government efficiency.
Yeah. So when I say efficiency, we've got to get a hold of the corruption problem. I always tell people you can't run a business if the cashier is stealing.
I love these analogies.
You could try it, but if the cashier is stealing, you're never gonna know how much money you're making.
Right.
So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta get rid of the teeth. So we have to take a serious hard look at this government. government corruption issue. And I think that once you solve that, then you can move forward in earnest and try to solve the other problems. But I think that without doing that, you're always going to be chasing your tail. So yes, that is one of the priorities that I think we should be focused on next. And then we got to talk about the kids. We got to talk about the education system. 94% of our kids can't do math. 84% of them can't read on grade level. Like, what are we really preparing these kids for? We need to totally revamp the education system and make sure that we're really fulfilling the needs of the Virgin Islands.
Well, those are 5 major concerns, and I agree with you. They should be addressed by the Virgin Islands government, but we the people, the electorate, we create the government. Anyway, the final question, number 3, do you support the creation of a constitution for the U.S. Virgin Islands to replace the revised Organic Act of 1954? And what recommendations do you have to ensure the success of the 6th Virgin Islands Constitutional Convention?
Well, so I would say that we need, yes, I support it. But only if it's a serious effort. I mean, let's be real, right? It's our 6th try. And it keeps on failing. You know why?
Why?
Because we can't agree on what's a Virgin Islander.
I agree. We get caught up with this identity issue. I have it simple, just say a person residing and has made the Virgin Islands of the United States his or her permanent home is a Virgin Islander. How about that? You think that anybody would go disagree with that one?
I think a lot of people would agree with you, but I also think a lot of people would disagree with you because we can't agree on this. We can't. And I think that
then eliminate it then. Just say what is a Virgin Islands resident.
I mean, there's so many common sense approaches that we could take to solving this and moving forward with the discussion, because the reality is that the Organic Act needs to be revamped, right? The Organic Act, it needs to be amended because it was written in 1954 not for a democratically elected governor, but for a naval commander appointed to rule with an iron fist. So as a result, we have the most powerful governor in the country, right? And we need to give some of that power back to the people. We need things like the Attorney General should not be a cabinet level official. That should be elected by the people.
And you can only have that happen if we have a constitution.
Well, and those are conversations that we need to have. And we need to be, take a pragmatic approach and say, hey guys, all right, we can't decide what's a Virgin Island. At the end of the day, the Obama administration was, I think, the one that struck down the last, constitution that we put together. And they said, no, you can't grant, certain rights, landowner rights and things like that. You can't grant Virgin Islanders preferences because just like how we want to be able to
But they were saying ancestral Native Virgin Islanders.
Well, but they were saying just like how we want to be able to buy land when we go to Atlanta, because I know plenty of people from the VI that go to Atlanta and buy land, buy houses and buy condos. You got to afford people the same opportunity to come down here and buy land, right? It's the, called the United States of America, right? So that was the Obama administration's argument. And I feel like we have to talk about the things that we can really affect, because at the end of the day, we're beholden to the U.S. Constitution. So our Constitution cannot conflict with the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is always going to supersede whatever we come up with locally.
As long as we are unincorporated territory. Now, we could later on address the higher hanging fruit, which is a permanent political status, because there are 5 unincorporated territories. You have Guam, you have the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the Commonwealth of North and Mariana Islands, American Samoa, and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have to follow the U.S. Constitution.
I understand that as long as you remain
part of the U.S.,
part of the United States. And I say later on we could have the conversation, because I think what some of those delegates on the 5th Constitutional Convention was doing was conflating the issues. They were conflating getting a constitution within the perimeters of where we are now. We are within the jurisdiction of the United States. We're not one of the contingent state. We're not physically attached to the North American continent.
All right. Contiguous.
However, we are still part of the United States, and there's confusion about that. What that means to be part of the United States. Okay, now I'm gonna make it simple. The supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's the battle land. The land. The land includes the 5 unincorporated territories and the 50 states.
Right.
So what they were doing were conflating the issues. They want to talk about independence.
Well, that's another discussion, and
That's another discussion, and that's
another
what I'm
discussion.
saying.
I don't think that has a place within the constitutional
Exactly.
convention discussion.
And I hope they don't repeat the mistake.
Well, I wish them well. I know a few people that are tasked with that, and they're trying to figure that out. But I would say on the 6th try, sorry, but I've kind of lost hope. They said, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. You fool me 5 times,
I know. I'm losing hope. I'm trying to hold on to hope.
Well, no,
okay?
hope is a hope.
I'm trying to hold on.
No,
I see a flicker of light at the end of the tunnel.
This is the year we gotta believe in hope. So don't.
I'm holding on, like with President Obama optimism. I'm trying to hold on to it. Okay?
I just don't know where we're gonna be able to get it done. So I think at the end of the day, we should just ratify something. But we know where the major arguments happen. Like I said, what is a Virgin Islander has been a huge stumbling block for us. And if we can't get past that, I think we should just we should just move on.
Well, that's why I came up with a compromise. If you want to give some special tribute to Native Virgin Islander, name the Shanties after a Native Virgin Islanders. I'm not saying name everything in the Virgin Islands should be named after a Native Virgin Islander, because we had people that were not born here, were not Native Virgin Islanders, to include some governors.
You were running for office.
But I'm getting off. That's why I could speak the truth, because I'm not trying to be popular. If I offend you by speaking the truth, that's your problem, not mine.
People want preference, Solana. You giving them shanties, they don't like you.
No, I am just saying for that community, but it's more than that. You're going to be a steward, a guardian. Remember?
Yeah.
And to get your community, to get people in your community to participate in keeping it litter free, so it carries a lot of weight, instead of just saying this person is a Native Virgin Islander. No, it's a responsibility, being guardian or steward of history, culture, and heritage.
Good luck with our platform. You got some candidates getting away 25,000. Good luck.
Well, anyway, that's a compromise. But hello, you don't have to be a native of the Virgin Islands to run for governor. As I said, I think John P. DeYoung wasn't born in the Virgin Islands. Mac was not born in the Virgin Islands. Lieutenant Governor Chaganza Roach was not born in the Virgin Islands. The former Lieutenant Governor Asper Pata wasn't born in the Virgin Islands. So right. I am saying we all are Virgin Islanders here. If this has become your home, that's my definition, okay?
Right.
Now, as a native, it's self-explanatory. Do you need to write a definition? What's a Native American? It's not in the U.S. Constitution, but we know what is a Native American. They were there before the Europeans came, before they had formed the 13 colonies, and I don't call them no Indians because they're not nationals of India.
Columbus was lost.
The Native Americans were there. You need to put in a definition for that. A native, a person born in a particular area, is a native, okay? Ancestral, that one was even more controversial when you put ancestral and native together, because that means You might not be an actual native, but you could be an ancestral native Virgin Islander. Can you imagine? In other words, a person whose generation could trace back to 1930, that was the date. But that person might have been born in Denmark. Their great grandfather born in St. Croix. So that person could have come back now and get exempt.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
All right. So that was really complex. And that is I don't know. I hope it's resolved. I hope we could all appreciate it.
I wish them well. You know, I hope that they are able to, deliver on their mandate. I wish them nothing but success. I wish the same. I'm just a little skeptical after 5 tries.
I understand. And a lot of people, I talk to people and they're like, especially on St. Thomas.
Yeah.
There's not that strong sentiment that we must replace the revised organic app. I'm like, I met St. Thomas and like, it's not broken, it's working. It's been working. We okay.
But, the laws are updated all the time, right? So,
Congress can amend it.
Yeah.
We're fine with that.
Yeah.
I am not. I would like to see us have our own constitution. Guam is the only other place, the only other unincorporated territory that doesn't have its own constitution. All the other 3 unincorporated territories have their own constitution. Another sticking point is people, like I said, conflated issues. You need to have your status defined first. I'm like, really? Well, Puerto Rico has a constitution, doesn't it? They define their status.
Yeah.
Hey, in any event, anyone interested in calling to ask the presenter question or questions you like to answer pertaining to the topic at the table, you're welcome to do so. The numbers are 340-773-0390 and 340-773-0490. Usually nobody calls, but they're listening. Thanks for listening.
So you're going to the art fair this weekend?
I am definitely going to be there because I believe that's an opportunity that brings us together. And it's a political affair. I love political affairs. It's more than a cultural affair. It's a political affair.
Right.
Because you're going to have all these potential candidates coming out. And so I hope you will be coming out.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I might be there.
You might be there. Coming out.
I might be there. I got to check my calendar.
I'm talking about coming out.
You gotta be careful when you say coming out, I don't want people to get a wrong impression.
I know, right? I just want to be a little humorous, okay? I want people to be aware of all those who may be considering a run for a public office. And is that something that's an aspiration you have?
I'm considering a run for public office. Correct.
Okay. And I believe the fair is an opportunity to interact with those. That's when they're most willing to listen.
At a fair?
Yeah. Because they're in a better mood.
Okay, so explain that to me.
Okay. They're seeking support.
Oh, you're talking about the candidates?
The candidates.
Okay.
And they're willing to listen to you. Now, once elected, that's a different thing. You don't hear about town hall meetings.
They don't need you once they get elected, son. Exactly. Yeah. It's sad how that works, right?
Right. But like no, you get the government you vote for. And if you don't participate in the process, somebody else will do it for you.
Correct.
So if you want to relinquish your rights and privilege to vote,
yeah, you got to get out there and vote.
Yeah, you have to participate in the process.
Like you said, if you don't vote, somebody else gonna vote. And
somebody will.
Correct, and then they're gonna be making decisions that you might not agree with. So if you have an opinion, and everybody does, you need to get out there and vote.
Yes, because all the laws are going to be for everybody, whether you are native or not. Nobody's above the law. So you have to make laws that everybody, all persons who are residents, have to follow. And it's very important. It's an opportunity for those candidates to give us civic lessons because people, a lot of the masses, they're really not aware how the government works.
Right.
And popularity is a big factor. If they like you have a pleasing personality, you could get voted in, but you may not be
Well,
the most.
at the end of the day, you still got to perform. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, you may not be the most effective leader, let's put it that way. But because you're like, so campaigning is one thing, governing is a different thing. Once they get in there, you have something to look at. But as aspirants who have never been in public office before, they got a lot more work to do because well, that's what I mean by coming out, facing the music and interacting with the community because a lot of people may not know this person, whereas the incumbents have an edge.
Yeah, well, the incumbents definitely have an edge because they're already in the spotlight. But everybody has to start somewhere, and I think that it's important to offer yourself up for public service and let people get to know you and see what you're capable of. But make no mistake about it. At the end of the day, you still got to perform and you still got to do the job. So it becomes readily evident when somebody is unprepared. Because then they sit there and they just talk about what they're going to do and they never actually get anything done. And then you're sitting there saying, but wait, you were such a good talker. What about actually getting stuff done? And when you compare them, you're like, well, this person didn't do anything before they got into office,
right?
And now they're just doing nothing with my money.
Exactly. So you got to look. I believe you should not just look at the fact that somebody has already served in a public position. You have to look at how they're serving in the community, and that's why I asked the question.
Look at what they've accomplished in life. Look at when they distinguished themselves. Inside the Virgin Islands and outside of the Virgin Islands, right? Look at contributions that they've made to the world at large. Look at academics, right? That's that is an important thing because a lot of this stuff, these are tough decisions. You need to be able to understand finance. You need to know a little bit about law. You need to know a lot of things to be able to make some of these tough decisions. This is like hiring an executive to run your company, and you want someone that is competent.
And what I believe in a high educational caliber. So, what is your education level? What you have a degree in?
I have a couple degrees. My first degree was in chemical engineering, and I got that from the University of Delaware, which is one of the top chemical engineering programs in the world.
Yes.
I also have an MBA from Northwestern, which is consistently ranked as one of the top business schools in the world as well. So I've learned both engineering and business from some of the top people in the world.
Well, you're eligible to run to be on the board of GRS. You're not. No, you never work as a government employee, right?
Never. I've never been a government.
Okay, you're not eligible. But that's one of the things that is being sought now for somebody to be on the GRS board. You heard about that, right?
I'm sure GRS is looking for board members.
Yes, and you have to have been a government employee. A retiree?
I would not qualify.
You would not qualify.
My mother was a 33 or 34-year-old government employee, but I have never had the pleasure of working for the government of the Virgin Islands.
Well, there's certain educational requirements to be eligible to run, to be on the GRS board.
Yeah.
And had you been a GRS retiree, you would have been eligible because I think one is to have some kind of degree in accounting.
Yeah, well, I have a degree in finance.
Finance,
I did serve on the WAPA board though for about 2 years.
And don't they have requirements to be on the WAPA board?
Well, now they do. And I obviously would meet the requirements now if that were the case. But those requirements were put in place. I think while I was there, they were being discussed, and I think they were implemented right after I left, because there was some debate about that.
Yes, I remember.
I agree. We can't just be putting people in critical positions because there's somebody friend or somebody cousin, because these are serious decisions that these people have to make. WAPA generates hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and that money needs to be spent in a logical way. And you need a certain amount of education, a certain amount of experience, solving those types of problems, to be able to spend that money efficiently. So it would be just as silly if somebody asked me to, let's say Christiansted was on fire, and somebody asked me to command a fire crew during the time when Christiansted needs me most. I wouldn't be able to do that well. I don't command fire crews for a living, right? So I think the career firemen are better off at doing that than I would be. And likewise, as a businessman, sitting at the table, going through financial statements, dealing with legal issues and things like that, it's ridiculous to ask a fireman to come into the boardroom and help solve some of these problems.
Right. Well, you see, a lot of members of Congress, they have law degrees. A lot
of members, and a lot of them come from deep business backgrounds and went to business schools, and but yes, law is a big one. I mean, these are serious jobs, and they come with serious responsibilities. And if we don't get the hires right, we end up with subpar results. And I think we need to start connecting the results that we have with some of the poor hiring decisions that we have made, putting people in jobs that they're not equipped for.
And with that, let me ask you this spontaneous question. Since we're talking qualifications, for public office, what is your position in electing a female governor for the U.S. Virgin Islands?
I think it'd be a great look. I think it's it's always going to boil down to the person, right? So, but I think there are a lot of women that are qualified to serve.
I do too, but I look at not the gender in itself, but I look at other qualities. So for me, it would be great to have the first elected female governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands. But again, the qualifications.
It all boils down to qualifications.
And who get to decide that? Some people that don't even have a high school diploma going to vote. So that might not even be one of their criteria for choosing who they want to cast a vote for.
Right.
But I respect everybody. But as I said, for me personally, educational level is important, and that's why I asked the question. We talk so much about education, and you mentioned some statistics, and we need somebody to inspire, to people to look up to. You mentioned about Adrian Tadman.
Yeah, that is somebody that all Virgin Islanders, regardless of where you're from, regardless of what your political allegiances are, Adrian Todman is a fantastic Virgin Islander.
And where is she now? She's in
DC. I mean, she's been in or around politics for the last little bit. So I'd be surprised if once the White House swings back Democratic, it will at some point, whether it's this next cycle or the cycle after that, she'll get swept up by the machine again. But Adrian Todman has made huge contributions, not just to the Virgin Islands, but to the country. And she needs to be celebrated. It's embarrassing that we have not celebrated one of our own.
And this is Black History Month.
This is Black History.
So we need to recognize.
She is living.
She's living and contributing.
Correct.
And making us feel proud that she is a native Virgin Islander.
Absolutely.
And I want people to, I believe in civic education, and that's one thing that I focus on my show.
I mean,
So
just backing up real quick, right? So she was in Biden's cabinet. Like never before has a Virgin Islander sat in the
amazing.
president's cabinet.
Wow. And what could you tell us? What are the three basic eligibility requirements to run for governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands?
It sounds like you quizzing me. That ain't got nothing to do with age, John Todd.
Well, it does.
I'm not. Why do you think I would know that off the top of your head?
I think you would know that because you might consider running for governor.
I'm considering running for office. Don't put words in my mouth. You're trying to
as a might.
Yeah. You're trying to light up the internet, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm considering running for office. I could be running for the 7th Constitutional Convention. You know.
Yeah, I know. But well, okay. Do you know what's the age requirement?
35.
All right. And we know everyone must be a citizen of the United States.
Yeah. Was there a 5-year residency requirement?
And the 5 years residency requirements.
Okay. So I might have took a look at that list once or twice.
I'm putting it out there for all potential. the more the list, the longer the list, the sweeter the race. I would love to have like 10 gubernatorial team in the primary.
That'll be interesting for sure.
It'll be interesting.
That'll be a whole lot of fish fries for sure.
So I'm putting it out there. All who thinking about it, we have put it out there for you. You need to be community oriented. First of all, you need to meet, if you're interested in running for governor, you need to meet those 3 basic eligibility requirements. But my point though is the voters set the other criteria. You as the individual voter, you decide what qualities a person should have. I mean, for me, it's integrity is top of my list.
Okay? Yeah.
Integrity.
And I think, that's an important one for sure. I think that there needs to be some order restored, and the next governor, whoever he or she is, needs to lead with integrity, because I think we have gotten too far off course.
Mm-hmm. And the people trust need to be restored to the election system.
We have to restore trust in government. Trust in government as a whole, not just election system.
Okay, in government as a whole, I agree. Because it's interesting, some people trust going to an ATM machine, but they don't trust a tabulator. they don't feel safe. They need to have their paper ballots be put in a wooden box. That's me. And manually counted, that means other people handling your ballot. It's sacred. And
you're gonna get all the conspiracy theories up, because
I know.
I don't know if you remember, but there was a video from the last election with somebody who had jump drive, and somebody was putting it in the pocket.
And you could have seen it was doctored. That video was doctored, and there was an investigation. There was no jump drive.
It was AI.
Right. There was no jump. You couldn't even see what was put in there was something put in her pocket, but it doesn't even make sense, because if you put a jump drive in somebody's pocket, everybody's going to be losing votes. So who is it helping? Well, it doesn't help anybody.
People might know, what if it was a precinct that I am particularly strong in, and you're particularly weak in, it benefits you to lose that jump drive.
Well, transparency was there. There was the camera. You could see clearly all the drum drives accounted for. I think you have more accountability, more accuracy, more integrity with the tabulators. And one more question I'm asking, we're going to wrap up. How do you feel about having a dual counting system of the votes? Presently, we count the votes exclusively electronically. But you can use paper ballots, but it's going into a tabulator. So there's a proposal to have two counting systems in place where when the voters go to the polls, they at that point
Yeah, let's let the professionals do their job.
I like that. That's such a diplomatic answer. And I really appreciate. I thank you for this interview. It was a fantastic interview.
Always a pleasure.
Very informative. Looking forward to seeing you at the Ag Fair and everybody
told
else.
You I gotta check my calendar.
At the Ag Fair. Happy Valentine. Happy Valentine is this Saturday. It's the Ag Fair, the opening of the Ag Fair. And I think if we have love and unity and all that, so I'm going to wrap up and say again, thank you, Jed, for being here. I want everybody to pay attention. It's a election season. Pay attention, be civic minded, participate in the process.
Get out and vote.
Get out there.
Make sure that your voice is heard. If there's something that you see around our community that does not jive with your values and your principles and your ethos, do not accept it. Stand up, be heard. If you are a proud Virgin Islander, then you need to be protective of the Virgin Islands and our quality of life. If you see raw wastewater floating in Christiansted Harbor, please get out and say something. Let our government know that this is not an acceptable way to treat its citizens. If you go to the hospital and you got to wait 24 hours before you're seen, get up, say something. Don't let it go unnoticed. We need more people to stand up.
Thank you. Live, listen, learn, love, and levitate.